What is going on, everybody?
Hello!
It is Pixel Partners here, and welcome back to the Greatest 32 when we left off. The court got in a ruckus over Strongheart over here being all saucy and sassy, but we're getting the way. We're getting the things we need.
Last episode when Sherlock just busted in and
Yes,
said,
it is.
"Hey, coward."
Exactly.
He basically said.
Yeah. So we got Mikatoba in here, and we also got Maria Gori. And then now we got the ring, and that's what we're talking about right now, is that there's some incident that the Antiques has thought about. So
Sherlock really went, continue with the trial. You won't bet.
Exactly. The one I recounted to you before about a memory I have of Genshin Asogi saving my life. What? My father saved your life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was 10 years ago on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden... Not making people count us!
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of bandits. Or whatever the hell they were.
All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. The next thing I knew, there was a silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He'd shielded me. It was on the ring finger of his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Are you saying? I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all.
Huh.
Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack. And in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indict him was miraculously found. You mean the ring was stolen from him? You think it was that's what those thugs were after that night?
That would explain things.
Objection! You can't take this, dude.
Yeah.
You pathetic coward.
What?
You expect me to believe that you weren't involved? What do you mean by that? It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring.
You really want to just condemn him.
You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as a mass murderer and have him arrested.
Stop. Just stop.
Kazuma. Open your eyes. Ryunosuke?
Just go over there and slap him, Ryu. Just give him a good slap.
Yeah, you must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscured when even your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this? Well, this is an amusing spectacle.
Shut
With a
up.
grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you've thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born out of it. What? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi now have disputed the findings in his trial? Oh. In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment.
This is where the papers will come in.
Here's hoping. The action of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and is resigned to his fate. But then...
Oh my, that is very strange. If Mr. Sogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then... that would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence.
An obvious conclusion in which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Genshin Asogi's silence at his hearing can mean only one thing.
Guilt.
There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. No.
There's that pose.
The autopsy was all above board. There'll be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to an immediate conclusion. Kazuma? Or was that?
No, that was him.
Okay. Thank you, Ryunosuke.
That was a heck of a doom sound.
Yeah, it was. If it wasn't for your frank words just now, this trial may very well have ended prematurely. Kazuma? What's this latest absurdity, Council?
You.
My lord? Your reasoning is perfectly sound. But for one giant hole. I beg your pardon? You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. But there's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence. Silence that would lead to him being convicted and sent to his death?
Yeah.
If the autopsy results were an invention, there's no inconceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested. Oh, those results were an invention, all right. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that two people with a connection to that autopsy have been assassinated? If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion those 10 years. Oh, me?
Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. We can only show there was a reason for his father's silence in his trial.
I mean, the reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent? I mean, technically, he was about to get away because Genshin, he never went to, he never got executed because that was all faked, and he was going to arise from the grave and escape before someone shot his ass down as soon as he was pulling the zombie move. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps?
It could be that that report from that one dude who allegedly helped him escape. That whole thing that listed the details of that.
We'll have to look at what we have involving all this. So enough rhetoric. The court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silence in court? I want to look at his
papers.
His will first, the Asogi papers. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be returned to my son Kazuma Asogi in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness I accept my fate in this foreign land and the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path.
I regret nothing about my chosen path.
So,
if he doesn't regret anything, then he wouldn't object.
That's what I'll focus on for right now.
Because that was my first thought.
Yeah, I think
But then the other thing I was talking about was
the dismissal
earlier
papers.
On. Yeah, the notice.
As the code of conduct prison revoked. Prison convict blank just prior to his execution. Details of the escape are still being investigated. Full court conviction being inspected. Indication of a plot being part of the
conceived prior to the convict's incarceration.
Display the convict engaged in some form of negotiation with prison staff in order to secure assistance. So it could.
It might be leaning towards this. Probably.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because this is more solid.
Yeah,
we should probably say first.
Yeah, this talks about the fact of beforehand, before it was even anything happening.
Before he was even put in jail.
Yeah, because the papers wouldn't have even been written by this point, so that'd be something after the fact. But this, it would be. Take that, please. It's true that Genshin Asogi's silence during his trial resulted in his conviction, but that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape.
Yep.
An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Really, such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone.
Like, he needed to be sentenced to death to escape.
Yeah. He must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration.
Boom.
In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Sogi and the British government. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, with that sort of clandestine argument in place, I can imagine he would have kept very quiet.
Yeah.
I would go further than that, in fact. I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Sogi can be explained in no other way.
Yep.
Order, order. First fabricated evidence and now a jailbreak conspiracy. Of course, because it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses? People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Oh!
Governor Caden? And the poor chief warder of the prison.
I won't allow this trial to turn into a farce to summon the governor of the prison after all these years.
It's not a farce, it's because you're getting scared.
Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. What?
Father? Oh, because they know each other.
My dear friend may appear a little rattle-pated at times, but I can assure you he's extremely thorough. He wired both Barclay and the local prison earlier, asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency. Mr. Holmes did that?
I love... Did you see Suzuto's face?
That?
She was like, yes!
Yeah. Are you telling me that? Both men are, unless I'm much mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment.
Damn, Sherlock, go off.
He's fucking puppeteering this trial behind the scenes.
Really
Goddamn. My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared at its outset. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings.
Yep.
Very well, bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than to lay this business to rest once and for all. Sure, buddy. Sure.
Sherlock's doing everything.
Apparently.
This is what happens when he doesn't have to play dumb around Ryu.
Yeah.
His full glory shines.
Okay, would the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please?
Oh yeah, this is me.
Yes.
I, Barry Caden, governor of Barclay Prison. Oh.
Everyone calls me gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah.
Your other persona, if you don't mind.
He's like, oh, right.
Oh, I do beg your pardon, of course.
He just got so used to...
Used to being a little street peddler.
Yeah.
My name is Daily Vigil. I used to be the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The reason you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called professor 10 years ago.
Look, the professor! We've already been through all that, through all this of what this would be taking some used to. A decade ago! And the conclusion was that there wasn't anything untoward happened.
A convict escaped from your prison, Governor. Hardly what you'd call nothing untoward.
Ah, well...
The convict's death certificate was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed, and he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody of influence inside the prison. Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection. I wonder if Caden actually helped him escape because he would know about the papers and the will, but it was just the way he was acting about it made it seem like, well, the way we were told he was acting about it made it seem like he was like trying to get rid of them.
Well, of course he would try to like get rid of any kind of connection between him and what was going on.
But the point is that no one should have known about those papers. Caden would have only known about it if he knew that he was going to write a will. But then again, it could be one of those things where maybe it was a double cross where the deal was supposed to be made for his freedom, but then afterwards they would take care of him, you know? But why would they go through all the effort of doing that, though?
I don't know.
To double cross him. If it turns out that you were involved in the plot to break Mr. Asogi out of your prison, then of course, the consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment.
Jeez. God, hold on there, laddie. All I did was...
Witness? Governor Caden.
Aye, sir.
You have a critical role to play in the public safety of our country. A great responsibility to shoulder. As the events of your testimony in court cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak.
Oof.
And Prosecutor Asogi, if you threaten the witness again, you will be held in contempt of court. Oops. My apologies, my lord. There's no disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak plot was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly, you were both involved in some way. So you will testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place. Very well, let the witnesses give their formal testimony.
Ooh,
Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break Asogi. It's so weird to just see that, because we're used to calling Kazuma's Asogi, but
yeah.
out of Barclay 10 years ago.
It's the same as when they're like, oh, Lord Van Zeke's autopsy report. It's like, wait.
Well, the thing that confused me is that I had to get used to the fact they're them saying Lord Clint Van Zeeks. Because I was so used to the fact of Lord Van Zeeks.
No, but after a while, they started saying Lord Van Zeeks instead of Clint. And I'm just like, that sounds really weird. He's right there. He's alive.
The jailbreak plot.
It was the day that Japanese shot was found guilty. The directive came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict to the chief warder vigil here and put the plan into action behind the scenes.
Huh. I was responsible for Asogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot.
I didn't ken if there was some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire. Huh.
A directive from the prosecutor's office? Are you saying that that was the jailbreak plot?
Aye, that's right.
Who sent it? Who authorized that plan? Turns around.
I didn't ken that.
You're saying you don't know.
Listen, there wasn't anything about that Professor case that wasn't unusual in some way. I didn't ask any questions. I just did what I was told to do. More than that, I couldn't tell ya.
I see. But if the jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office, then one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were clandestine dealings going on between Mr. Asogi and that office. The jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Asogi admitted to crimes he didn't commit. That counts as nothing more than speculation on your part. So, let me ask the defense. Yes, my lord? I fail to see how these witnesses have any more pertinent information here. Do you intend to assert your right to a cross-examination?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord. It seems like you Japanese are fiercely tenacious.
Yes.
Very well. Proceed, counsel. So, I think another thing that we keep not thinking about here, because I think we also like the fact of assuming that Genshin had done something at some point, but...
What do you mean?
Because, like, we have to think about the fact we haven't thought about if Genshin was falsely prosecuted, then who is the professor? Like, that's something we've never really thought about.
No, but I never really thought that Genshin was guilty of anything. But I just, like, I didn't think he was guilty, but I never thought about who would be.
I always thought it was a little weird of him being guilty with the way he was acting, but you also have Tobias, who's not necessarily, you know, a bad person, I don't think. He was doing some iffy stuff, but like you said, like, you know, when he was talking to Asogi, he was like, even though we did this, Tobias was like, I am damn sure that he was the professor. Yeah. And that's why they did it. Toby's not necessarily a bad... Drama.
Yeah.
Japanese almost time a doctor came from the prosecutor's office. Assign the convict to Chief Warder Vigil here, but playing behind the scenes. Plot. Carry out my duty for emergency British Empire. Alright, let's start pressing things from the beginning, because nothing stands out to me at all.
No, they were both very vague.
And you say you don't know who actually issued the directive.
Oh boy. Aye, that's right. All I can be sure of is that it was official.
But if it was from the prosecutor's office, that narrows down who could have issued that straight away. And it wasn't me.
I can't even say with certainty that it did originate from the prosecutor's office.
What?
There's no telling where it started. There's a fair chance it came from higher up the ladder. Looking at you, sir. Basically.
Well, back then, Strongheart was the chief prosecutor.
Yeah.
So, basically.
I cannot give you any indication of who was behind it.
Nah. You can't be serious.
All we can say for sure is that the order must have come from somebody in authority, I suppose. The likes of us on the ground, as it were, didn't bother with a little speculation. We just get the job done.
Okay, sign the convict to Vigil. So, Mr. Vigil, you didn't know anything about it at all. That's right, my only role in the scheme was as a scapegoat.
Oh.
That's right, isn't it, Governor? Shit.
Some poor beggar had to take the rap for it. Aww.
Alright then, who else did know about the plan?
I've not the first idea, laddie. My part in the whole business was basically just dealing with the aftermath. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were other folk in the prison service who'd been given similar orders.
So you don't know who else was involved?
Aye, that's right. All I can tell ya. That the night it actually happened, the person at the reins was Dr. Stevens.
Dr. Courtney Stevens? Or Dr. Sith as she's known now?
Oh yeah.
Why'd I have to get caught up in such a terrible business?
Poor guy.
Real.
He was just doing his job.
Enough of the plot. Did you not notice anything unusual happening in the lead up to that night? Oh, everything was unusual. Exception after exception. After all, it was the professor. The man had terrorized the country as never before with his crimes. In order to hide his identity, he was forced to wear an iron mask over his head. Hideous treatment.
The fellow was surprisingly docile for someone who had taken the lives of 5 of the country's nobles.
Being the chief warder, I was the only person permitted to approach his cell. I can still hardly believe that I was duped by my own country. I believe you jumped from the window of the governor's office when the jailbreak was blamed on you, didn't you?
Lost, Vigil. Can I apologize enough?
No, Governor, I don't believe you can. I won't change what's happened.
Oof. That's rough.
Well,
That's
anyways,
rough,
and what else can you tell us about the situation, Governor Caden?
I wonder if the mask was put on to be like, hey, yeah, this is Genshin, but it really wasn't.
I mean, that could be a possibility.
And what if he's alive somewhere?
My whole theory comes back around. He's still alive somewhere.
Because, like, why else would they put a mask on him?
Because, I mean, I was thinking similar to the same thing. Like, it is a weird thing to put a mask on to hide him from the public. But, I mean, that could technically answer, like, potentially who would be, like... But that flips everything again. It was like saying that he's still alive and acting as, you know, the Reaper of the Bailey from the shadows. But to do that, he would have to be the one guilty of doing the killings in the first place, as being the professor and not actually have been wrongfully accused.
Not necessarily.
I suppose. Let's see where this takes us, because there's a lot to take in. But you've already acknowledged the orders came from the prosecutor's office to arrange for the man's escape. There must have been some sort of negotiation. It's the only explanation.
Aye, well, be that as it may, I didn't care nothing about that. The witness stand is no place for telling what you don't know for sure. Reckon that much I do.
Then I presume you also know this. Not telling what you do know is a criminal offense.
Ah.
So you were just following orders, is that it? I'm afraid that won't absolve you of guilt here. The man was still killed illegally, even if he was a condemned criminal. You may very well be found complicit in murder, Governor. So that's what it's to be, is it? And even with the threat of conviction, you won't break your silence.
Wow.
The duty for Majesty's Great British Empire. Not really getting anything. Did you carry out the plan in its entirety?
I did everything I could at the time.
As you know, Genshin Asogi was shot dead in Lowgate Cemetery after the escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too?
My instructions were to do what getting the jock out to the jail and nothing more. I can't tell you anything about what happened after that. Only, personally, I believe his death was the last part of the plan.
Mr. Vigil,
You heard him,
is
right?
something wrong? Yeah.
He's like, what does this mean? And there he goes.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir?
I
He's saluting now? What is this? Some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Caden was just saying seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh boy, here he goes.
Yep.
For the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors in the name of my country. Just as my father was betrayed, it seems. But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine that the shooting of Mr. Asogi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan. What makes you think that? Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it? To make the man admit to crimes he didn't commit with the promise of a jailbreak, only to kill him in the end. That's treachery of the worst kind, but the point is, the intention was always to betray him. Why would there be any need for all the chicaneries of an escape? Like we thought of.
Yes, that's quite true. But if it was someone that wasn't him that got shot, they could be like faking his death or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could essentially because if
that was my whole theory behind it. What I said earlier. That's what I meant.
Because also with Caden saying about how like he only knows of his part of the plan and nothing else, and no one else involved. Someone else's step could have been shoot whoever steps out of the grave.
Because like if he can't fake his death if he's killed in prison.
No.
But if he's killed while escaping with a mask on,
yeah,
he could easily fake his death that way. Because everyone's like, oh, don't take the mask off.
If ever negotiated with Asogi, never intended to keep his or her end of the bargain.
And the wax figure could just be another way of saying, hey, it's him who died, not anyone else.
It would have been far simpler to just let the man be executed in prison as dictated by his sentence. It all happened in that vast chamber of secrets that is Barclay, behind the high prison walls.
But I guess it comes to the question of who died instead.
Yeah, if that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now.
That's the hole in my theory.
Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly. Let me... That's what it is. He's alive and he's running the whole Reaper thing.
Because he said he'd
That's
never go back to Japan or see his family.
He acknowledges that he's like, I've given up my life. I can't go back, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Doesn't mean death. That means a new life, essentially. Ooh.
I have good theories sometimes. But again, the thing is, who died?
That's a great question.
Or was it just all covered up and it was a fake gunshot?
I have no idea.
Point is, I think he faked his death. That's my theory.
Yeah.
But there's holes in it.
This is some unsettling mystery, certainly.
For now. Truth be told, there is a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me.
Huh?
You believe there was some kind of negotiation behind the jailbreak between the Sugi and the body at the top? Doesn't it quite add up, does it?
Governor Caden, I must insist that you explain these doubts that you have. By amending your formal testimony.
Gads! Aye, go on then. He's not happy. He's never happy. He's only happy when he thinks that he's
nothing to bargain with.
Getting his way, and then when he doesn't, he throws a tantrum like a 5-year-old with a giant staff with a unicorn on it.
Hold it!
So, admitting to the crimes, that was what he had to bargain with, surely?
Don't call me Shirley.
Huh?
I kinda see that myself. After all, did the prosecution now have conclusive evidence against the Carly, eh? Aye,
This,
Carly.
you mean, discovered during the final victim's autopsy? There's every possibility this conclusive evidence was fabricated by Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office. Possibilities are all very well, but nothing has been proven. You can holler about misconduct in the trial 10 years ago all you like, but if you can't establish that it happened with hard evidence, no one's going to listen.
He's got a point.
Yeah?
Aye, that's right. So what I'm saying is... the conviction had nothing. Nothing he could use for any kind of bargaining at all. I said the conviction. The convict.
It's fine. The witness makes an astute point. Largely, it would seem no negotiation could have taken place. And yet the plan to break the man out of prison was definitely put into practice. So he must have been armed with something that gave him an angle to negotiate. So Sogi-san agreed to confess to the crimes because he was assured he'd be broken out of prison later.
I really don't think that Kazuma-sama's father would have engaged in such negotiations.
And perhaps something compelled him to agree?
What a terrible thing. Using the law to legitimize such underhanded dealings with a desperate man. Only to double-cross him in the end. It's quite the opposite of justice.
I can't help feeling there's something about this apparent negotiation that doesn't quite add up.
Something doesn't quite add up, Mr. Naruto?
No, it doesn't. But I can't quite put my finger on what yet.
Well, in that case, we must keep digging until we identify the problem.
I mean, we've kind of dug to what we can, so it's gonna be this last part that we have. What do we present there? Japanese fellow didn't have anything to bargain with.
I wonder if Sherlock's just been listening in through the rabbit, and he's like, alright, I need to get these witnesses up soon, because I hear what's going on.
Should I... maybe it's time I pull the rabbit's ears and I get something out of it.
What a charming little rabbity version of Mr. Holmes. You suppose this is how Iris sees him? You alright, Mr. Naruto? Your eyes are veritably boring into the poor doll's ears.
Oh, sorry, I was just wondering. What do you suppose would happen if I were to tug its ears with all my might right now?
I'm sure that we'll find out when the time is right. To become a proper gentleman, you must really learn stoic patience.
But I want to know! Alright, so I can't...
Not
that's
right
not
now.
it yet, so...
Because we're not at a dead end yet.
No.
We're just struggling.
So this is Will, but that's not really anything to bargain with.
Oh boy.
I've got nothing that belongs to the man. Aside from the ring and the sword. But I don't know. What do you think? Because there's not much we have that involves the past.
Yeah.
And it's trying to find something that he would have.
Did you save?
No, I didn't.
Might want to save.
I just don't know what would be considered a good enough bargaining tool.
Yeah.
Like, would the ring somehow count? Like the only thing that we have that really connects to him is the ring, the sword, and his last will and testament. Everything else has just been about the murder and death of fucking Gregson.
Yeah.
This won't be anything.
Yeah, it's all from earlier.
Like, these are the only 3 things that we have that I think would tie to him.
I mean, the ring wouldn't make sense because... Well, granted, he could have given that before the autopsy happened. But...
Oh, it's going to the left. Let's go. I'm letting the story mode play out. Is it the will?
It is the papers. Okay.
Confessing under oath to murders he didn't commit on verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison, Genshin Asogi was taking an incredibly risky gamble. Very true. There was nothing to stop the British breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyway. Under normal circumstances, no man would stake his life on a gentleman's agreement like that. Which means that Mr. Sogi must have had a trump card. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon.
Havers! The fella couldn't possibly have anything like that.
But you know that he did, Governor. The Asogi Papers, the name given to the last will and testament of Genshin Asogi.
Ah!
It turns out that Mr. Asogi was hiding his will in his cell at Barclay. Chief Warder Vigil caught him with it one day.
You squealed, did you wee rat? Did I not tell you to keep that a secret? That's right, because he's like, who told you?
You can't touch me now. I'm touching it right now. When Mr. Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict cell, Mr. Asogi pleaded with the warder. All right then, but what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
A weapon?
And after the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of the jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it? Well, yes. All the prison warders searched through the belongings of his cell, but that will was just nowhere to be found. As I understood it, an exhaustive search was made for the document, which became known as the Asogi Papers. Governor Caden, I believe you ordered your prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you?
Eh?
Would I be right in saying that you knew that the so-called Asogi Papers had the potential to make great waves somehow?
Jigs, what the blazes are you blithering about? That the will was found, right and proper. And the fella's cell where I said it would be.
But how can this be? We're in a cell. We all searched the place from top to bottom.
You're swinging that very close to his head, dude.
For real.
Well, you didn't do a proper job, you peely wally galoot.
Excuse you. You can't criticize me now.
I showed it to you afore, did I know, young lawyer?
Yes, you did. I have the document here. It's written in Japanese and reads, The Last Will and Testament of Genshin Asogi. Which means everything is as it should be. Not quite, my lord. You see, there's an undeniable inconsistency here. What? What inconsistency? So you described this document as the only weapon he had left. And yet, this will contains nothing of significance at all. Nothing that would have given the convict any leverage. Are you suggesting, my learned friend, that the last will and testament stored at Barclay Prison all these years is actually a fake? As has clearly been demonstrated already, what went on at Barclay Prison was far from above board.
Meaning it was far from legal.
That last vilification by the defense was an affront to the entire British legal system. This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only the former Chief Warder's word. The man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least, sorely mistaken. What? No! I definitely heard him say that, I swear! Clearly we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Asogi Papers.
Ooh.
A waste of time. If the will was fake, where's the real document? This individual was stabbed in the back by the judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything, very nearly his own life. And now you're going to do it again. You're ready to brand him a liar and turn your back on him without even letting him defend himself.
Ooh, this guy about the person's hiding something.
It's clear the jailbreak was masterminded by somebody in the prosecutor's office.
It's clear that some illicit negotiations took place.
Is your lordship going to gloss over these? Okay, so...
What did you say?
We see him order, Chief Warder.
Testify again.
Testify. The trial must go on. A man's voice must be heard.
It would seem that a vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. Very well then, let the witness testify again. Tell the court precisely what you think you saw of the convict's last will and testament. And we'll get to that next time.
What a lovely, well-mannered man.
He's just fucking, holy moly, you're.
Dude, if this wasn't if this was just like the public people, he wouldn't listen to them at all.
No.
But this is like members of the judiciary, so he has to.
It's member of the judiciary and people that he's trying to impress in the first place with the science symposium. So he can't make a bad impression of himself because it changes everything for his future.
But in the end, he's just, unwillingly leading to his own downfall.
I think the thing that gets so frustrating about this, I don't say frustrating at the game, but like when it comes to him as a character, is the fact that it's like he's so smart and so confident in the fact that he did everything he needed to 10 years ago to hide his traces, that like he's still like, you know what, fine, I'll let you go one step closer, because he's so confident. He's like, I've put all this forward to hide my doings in this to the point where I'm untouchable, and it's frustrating that he's fucking right so far.
Yeah, he's done a good job.
It's been hard to pin it on him. You dickwad.